Okay, so let's get started. How is everyone doing? You can just type in the chat box as we get flowing. Yeah, so as promised, yeah, I see Remy is doing great. Nancy as well. I'm also doing good. I had a good day today. So as promised, today we are going to look at how to save time using we're going to look at shortcuts, and I'm going to teach you a little bit of favorites, how to use the ArchiCAD favorites. So shortcuts, it's an extension of yesterday's work that we did on the work environment. So if you go to options, work environment, you scroll down, you'll see that there is somewhere written keyboard shortcuts. And if you click on it, it gives you a dialog. Then the dialog has current menu structure in that this is the menu that it's referring to the file. If we collapse this, we'll see file, edit, new, design, document, all that up to options, window, and help. So how do we begin assigning shortcuts to various commands in ArchiCAD? So the easiest way to do this, first of all, before I dive into how to create them, if you are familiar with, if you've used Windows for a long time, you know that new for any Windows program uses the Control plus N. That's why it's written global. New and reset all Control Alt plus N. If it's share, so share does not have any. Under open, we have Control plus O, and so on and so forth. So if you decide to use the most famous that we use is Control plus S, and the save and the save as Control Shift S. So as students, unless you have an ArchiCAD license, a professional ArchiCAD license, I doubt you use these teamwork settings as much. So this travel pack is also in teamwork. So the major ArchiCAD settings, we find them mostly under edit. So under edit we have the undo, Control plus Z, redo, it's Control Shift Z, repeat last command, we have cut, we have copy, we have paste. So we have all that. We have under grouping and groups, suspend groups. So how do we begin to create groups? So the best way to do this is to start looking at what is the logic behind creating these shortcuts that is being used. So ArchiCAD uses, most of the time, it uses either Control, Alt, or Shift plus letter. So if it's group, the letter that is most prevalent in group is G. So you'll have Control plus G. If it's on group, how do you reverse that? Control Shift G. Suspend groups, Alt G. Now, if I was to add a new shortcut for auto group, if I want to create a new shortcut, I will come here, say I want auto group to be Control. So what's the one that has not been used here? The combination of these special keys, as I'd call them, is Control, Alt, G. Those are the three. So, and it tells me that this combination Control, Alt plus G is not assigned to any command. So let me assign it to that. And yeah, so I also have some custom ones here. Display order. This is useful if you have objects within your drawing. Some are you desire them to show on the front, some at the back. So these are custom ones. These are not in the default template. And if you installed my work environment, you can look through them. You'll see that these are existent. So we also have the most common ones I use are the move tools. So I have the drag, the rotate, the global one, mirror, control M, elevate, control 9. Drag a copy, control shift D, control shift E, control shift M. However, ArchiCAD does not provide the drag multiple copies, drag, rotate multiple copies. So same logic when creating a new shortcut. So if drag is control D and drag a copy is control shift D, I'll just add substitute the shift for alt, make it control alt D. So the reason why I do this is that, say I want to replicate, say I had a space and I wanted to, first of all, let me unlock this layer, and I wanted to move this multiple times. If I did not have a shortcut, I just have to right click, move, come to drag multiple copies. But because I have a shortcut, just do Control Alt D. You see it's the cursor with the 2 plus signs, and I'm able to drag multiple copies. Yeah, so let me just Control Z to undo that. Yeah, and lock this layer again as it was locked. Yeah, so back to work environment, keyboard shortcuts. Yeah, and so it's basically however you want it. If you want to create a shortcut for design tools, let's say it's a wall, and I want to activate a wall by saying Alt W, I'd assign it just as easily. And if I come to my drawing window and click Alt plus W, you see wall has been, without clicking on the wall tool, and if I hover on the wall tool, you see now it's giving me wall tool Alt plus W. So I want to activate it, Alt plus W, and the wall tool is instantly activated. So this is one of the ways that you can start to save time. Instead of dragging your cursor all the time across your drawing window, you can just create those shortcuts. So this is pretty straightforward. So like other aspects of the work environment, if you want to save them and retain them to your work environment profile, you'll have to come on the schemes. So since I've added new shortcuts, I've created a custom scheme. So I can either choose to redefine the one that I use with my profile current scheme, or I can choose to override or create a new one. So in this case, let me just create a new one, call it new, say store. And if I want now to make sure that it's on a user, I want to make sure it's on a profile, I'll just come to new profile and click on edit, under shortcut schemes, click this drop down, select new, and just like that, all the settings have been saved to my work environment profile, and I'm able to continue using these shortcuts as I please. So if you're feeling like you really want to save time, some suggestions: if it's wall, Alt plus W, column, Alt plus C. If it's not being used, Alt plus B, Alt plus S, Alt plus R. Most common ones, if it's stair tool, maybe could be Control Alt S. So it's however you want it to be. Yeah, so we are going to now dive into favorites. So what favorites basically are, if you use ArchiCAD and you have select a design tool or any tool for that matter, whether design tool or a viewpoint or a document tool, you'll find that you'll have, if you click on this button, on this drop down, you find that it gives you a sort of a palette or a dialogue telling you that these are the favorites that you have. So there is a generic exterior, generic interior, structural wall, partition wall. So these are the ones that ship with ArchiCAD. But say I want to create a new favorite, how would I do that? One way to do that would be, let's say most of the time, if I'm using Kenyan standards, or let's say East Africa standards, I know that my wall is masonry block, so that's the material, masonry block, where I'm going to show you how to set materials and to edit them in our class tomorrow. So dimension is, wall thickness is 200. If it's the height, I like to keep this height using the top offset. So if it's top offset, I know that my slab is going to be 150. If I'm working with a residential house, my beam is probably going to be 450. So I want it to be, let's say, minus 600 from the top floor, top link. So I'm going to keep that as negative 600. And let's decide I want now to save this favorite. So I'm going to click this button here, favorites, and now I have a new kind of wall, a new one that I want to define. So if I want to store it, I'll come here and say new favorite. And what name am I giving it? So I can give it just the name of this material here. So let's call it masonry block wall. And to further define it more, so let me assign it the dimension of the thickness. So masonry block wall 200, and instantly it's been added there. So these favorites you can create for walls, you can create for any sort of material. So once I've created my favorite, I can just exit my wall default settings, and if I now click on this drop down here, now I have new favorites. How else can I edit my favorites? Now I can edit additional settings. I can choose to have previews, I can choose to use a list, or let's say I have multiple folders within here. So first, if I wanted to have now to further reorganize them, have a folder for exterior walls, and then have a folder also for interior walls, and click OK. So this masonry block 200, if I want it to be there, I can just click on it, drag, place it on my exterior walls. So I want to create a new favorite here. So how do I do that? Just come, what's my interior wall going to be? 150 probably. Same, minus 600 from the top link. If it's structural bearing, that means there's going to be most probably a slab on top of it. Yeah, I mean a beam on top of it, so the minus 600 mm. Come back here under walls, exterior walls, on walls. Oh, so my folder disappeared. this folder that I had. So let me recreate the folder, call it interior walls. It tells me that name already exists, however I cannot see. So what could be the problem? Yeah, so let's just create another, call it int walls. Maybe that's just an error why we can't see the folder, probably because it's empty. So let me open that and create new favorite. What do we call it? Call it masonry block. Assign it dimension 150. Okay, so it instantly appears. Yeah, so as I continue to create my favorites, now this is a process that I want to use for all as I continue to design. So I'm building my standards, slowly building my standards. I know that for all my projects I'm probably going to use the same kind of toilet, so that will cut across even in equipment and furniture and all that. So still the same thing, I would come here on favorites. Favorites, I don't see a folder for plumbing, so let me create one, call it plumbing, click OK, open it, create new favorite, call it WC, probably porcelain, if that's going to be the material. Yeah, and you see it instantly creates, so because it's there. And materials and these favorites, they retain a lot of data from the elevation to the dimensions, also the layer, if any overrides on the surfaces, the contour pens that you're going to use. You can edit it however you want. So, and we see that ArchiCAD provides us a few of these favorites, but then we want to build our standards and use them as much as we do. So how I would advise you to go about this: get the project that you've done best, the best project that you've done, and then this work to now build your favorites. Select a material, select a wall, any element that you have, that which you repeatedly use. Open the settings of that element, go to favorites, create new favorite. If you need to organize them into folders, then do that. Okay, and so how can I sorry for that, how can I now reorganize, how can I manage my favorites well? So ArchiCAD gives us a palette for organizing our favorites. So to access that, go to Window, Palettes, and scroll down here, click on Favorites. So if I drag here, yeah, so I'm able to, it only gives me the ability to now start. For one, I can create folders. I cannot edit them. I can only create folders. I can only reorganize these favorites as I want to, and I can even delete those that I want to. So if I decide that I'm probably never going to use this, just delete it. But if I want to create new favorites, then I'd need to build the favorite within the element settings, the tool settings. So if it's wall tool, and you see that it's not just for modeling tools, you can also use them for documenting tools. You see this is a fill, this is a spline, this is a polyline, this is an arc, this is, and all these have and see if I double click it, you see instantly there is a change that has reflected here. If I click this, now the info box updates to show the settings for the active favorites. So if it's a document, now if I wanted to edit this, if I feel that these are not the standards that I want, I'll just delete all of them that shipped with ArchiCAD, and then I'll start creating my favorites slowly. So where are favorites stored? Favorites will be stored within your libraries, within your ArchiCAD libraries. So when you create your libraries, if we have this ArchiCAD library, LCF, this one here, if we go down and open it, these different favorites will be found here, but I might decide to change them. So, in order to reuse favorites, now what do I do? I need now to save them within a template. So if you'd want to reuse favorites over and over again, so ArchiCAD is smart enough that it will save your favorites with the libraries that you mostly use. So if I use ArchiCAD library 26 and I've created my favorites, if I open my project using this same template or these same project settings, then I'm going to find my projects in the new one. So I won't dive right now into the process of creating a template because it goes deeper than just using favorites. That's something that I'd want us to look at on Friday as we conclude our 5-day masterclass. Yeah. So this has been short, I think, probably on purpose or without knowing it. Yeah, so that's how you create favorites. Those two ways, setting them up will take time, but now once you begin using them, you'll find that it saves you so much time. So setting up is always hard, but as there's a famous quote by Abe Lincoln, he said that if you give me an axe and want to tell me that you want me to chop down a tree in the forest, give me 10 hours to do it. Then he said that he will spend a huge chunk of the time sharpening the axe. So think of creating shortcuts, creating favorites. Think of this as sharpening your axe because it does pay off. When you start working on large complex projects, you need to have these favorites at hand so that you don't waste time doing mundane tasks, you don't waste time right clicking, trying to access different things, so that you don't waste time creating the same settings for elements over and over again. All you need to do is to look for your favorites, get them where you need them to be, and just use them. Yeah. So that's all I have for you today. I'm going to now open up the floor for anyone who has a question concerning favorites and shortcuts. Yeah. Mm, Kimani asks, can you make a custom elevation and section marker? I'm not sure if ArchiCAD allows you to do so, but what you can do is you can create such like the ones I have here. So how I did this is I did not create a new marker. All I did is use the markers already in ArchiCAD's library. And if you open, let's go to the elevation here, click on settings. Um, so when I click on settings, there's a dialog or a place here that asks you marker symbol and text. So what symbol do you want to use? There are different marker styles. There is this triangle, there is this circle, circle 2, circle 3, circle 4, 2 lines. So these are the ones that ArchiCAD provides. To create a new one, we'll need knowledge on the scripting and creating ArchiCAD library objects. I'm not familiar with creating library objects, but I find using these ones here, these are satisfactory. Yeah. So Nancy asks, when you set up the shortcuts for certain ArchiCAD file. So shortcuts, like I said, is when you set up a shortcut, you have to save it in the work environment profile. When you save a work environment profile, it's used so long as, let's say I'm working on ArchiCAD 23 and I've installed my work environment profile for ArchiCAD 23. Every time I open a project in ArchiCAD 23, I have access to that profile. So I can reuse the shortcuts. If it's to do with favorites, allow me to talk more about templates. Templates, I will talk at length completely about it on Friday. So favorites are linked to project template. So if you have an understanding of how to create project templates, easiest way to do it, how I can say the easiest way to do it. So I have all my favorite set up in the file that I like to use. I have my libraries, shortcuts, everything. So if I want to create my template file that I'm going to reuse, all I'd want to do is select everything. I mean everything related to the drawing model. So that includes the sections. I might decide to retain the sections, but and the elevation markers, but I've already stored them in the favorites, for let's say. So let me just delete everything. But I find some things, oh, the ones that have not been deleted are the ones that are so let me undo that and let me change the layer combination so that everything is unlinked, unlocked that is, and then delete. So it asks me delete viewpoint, delete anyway. So I've deleted everything. So if I want to create a template file from this, just come to file, save as, create new template file. So template file, template, project template. So I'd call it any name I want. Yeah, and then save that. So to reuse favorites, you need to save them in your templates, but to reuse shortcuts, all you need to do is to save them in your work environment. And once you install our work environment, it's there to stay. You don't need to reinstall it over and over again. Rather, re-import it. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Nancy. Okay, thank you, Nancy, for the question. Do we have anyone else who has a question? Go through what again specifically, Nisi? Uh, if you'd want to review everything, I'd say for the sake of time, I'm going to provide the recording to this so you can watch it again. Yeah, in the recording. But the easiest way, let me just give you a short breakdown of how to do it. Just go to the element that you want. So favorites are there for every tool that you want. So I'd have to do this for my mesh. As long as you see any tool here on your toolbox, there is a favorite for it. So go to settings dialog, control plus T, create the settings that you want. If it's a wall, the dimension, the material, if it's composites, complex profile, all that, the how tall you want it to be. And then now come here and on this star icon here, once you have everything, just click on new favorite, give it a new name, and that's that. Same case applies if it's a lamp tool, if it's a lamp that I want to create a new favorite for. And now this icon is here, create all the settings that I want, blah, 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 create new favorite. So that's that's how to set up favorites in summary. Yeah. Welcome, Nisi. Mhm. Do we have any more questions or are we good to go? Okay, so I'm assuming the silence means that everyone has grasped something. Remember, I'm going to give you the recording for this tomorrow morning so that you can go over it again. If I may have left something out and you still feel that there is more that you'd like to learn, Graphisoft or ArchiCAD has a help center. So you can just type in your browser, search ArchiCAD favorites, how to, and you'll be able to learn everything that you'd want to. So tomorrow we are going to learn something that I consider a lot of fun and a huge part of automation in ArchiCAD. So that's how to control your workspace. I'm going to teach you how to use this drawing. This same floor plan can give you that and at the same time can give you that. So I'm going to teach you the settings that you need to know of for you to be able to create presentation elevations and from the same elevation to create detailed ones without color. Yeah, so be sure to attend tomorrow's masterclass. There's so much to learn. Yeah, so I hope I'll see you there tomorrow and I wish you a good night and success in all that you do. Yeah. Okay, so I see everyone leaving, so good night and bye bye.